The 17 closed doors. The night was cold, colder than anything she had ever known. The wind screamed through the empty streets, carrying sharp pieces of snow that cut against her skin like little blades. She was thin, her clothes torn and wet, her body shaking as she walked barefoot on frozen ground. Her skin, pale and bruised, looked almost blue under the moonlight. She was not human. Her face had marks of another world, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. But right now, she looked less like an alien and more like someone about to die. She stopped at the first house, her weak hands knocking on the wooden door. Her voice came out as a whisper, broken and desperate. "Please, help me. I'm freezing." For a moment, there was silence. Then the door opened just wide enough for a face to appear. The villager's eyes went wide when he saw her strange features. Without a word, the door slammed shut, locking her out again. She stood there, snow piling on her shoulders, her lips trembling, and then she moved on. The second house. The third, the fourth. Each door opened only long enough for fear and disgust to spill out. They cursed at her. Some shouted, "Get away, creature." Others didn't even waste words. They just pushed her back into the snow and slammed the door in her face. She begged, she cried, her voice cracking until it was almost gone. But none of them cared. By the 10th house, her legs were heavy. Each step a battle. Her bare feet left red stains on the snow, blood mixing with ice. She was too weak to cover herself. Too weak to fight. Her body wanted to fall, to give up. But something inside her told her to keep moving. Just one more door. The 12th, the 13th, the 14th. No one wanted her. One man threw a bucket of water at her. Laughing as the freezing liquid covered her body, she gasped, shivering violently. The woman at the 15th door crossed her chest like she was protecting herself from evil, and whispered, "Monster," before slamming the door at the 16th door. A child peeked out, wide-eyed and curious, but his mother yanked him back. Inside, before he could speak to her, the 17th door was the hardest. She leaned against it, too weak to stand on her own. Her hand knocked weakly, more like a tap. The man who opened the door looked at her with a sneer. He muttered, "We don't want your kind here," and kicked the door shut with such force that she stumbled backward into the snow. Her body hit the ground, and she stayed there for a moment. Her cheek pressed against the icy earth. Her breath was shallow, almost gone. She whispered, "Maybe this is it." The sky above was dark, the stars hidden behind storm clouds. She thought about her people, about how even they had abandoned her. She thought about the home she lost, the warmth of a mother's arms that no longer existed. The galaxy was wide, yet here she was, dying on a nameless street, invisible to everyone. Her body was screaming at her to stop, to sleep, to let the cold take her. But her heart whispered one more time, one more chance. She pushed herself up, her knees shaking like broken branches. Her eyes stared at the next house, the 18th door. The wooden frame glowed faintly in the distance because light spilled out from its window. A fire, she thought. Warmth. She dragged her body forward, step by step, until she reached it. Her hand shook as she raised it to knock. For a moment, she hesitated. What if this one was like the rest? What if this was the final rejection before death? Her heart pounded in her ears. She knocked once, twice. The sound barely louder than the wind. The door creaked open, and warm light spilled onto the snow. She blinked, blinded for a moment. A figure stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, his face human. His eyes widened as he saw her, an alien woman. Freezing, weak, her lips blue, her body shaking. She tried to speak, but her voice was broken, barely a whisper. Please. Just warmth, nothing else. Her knees gave out, and she began to fall backward into the snow, but strong arms caught her. The human held her up. looking at her with shock and disbelief. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other, his warm breath against the cold night, her glowing eyes staring back at him. Oh. She fainted in his arms. The last thing she felt was the heat of his body compared to the ice outside. For her, the 18th door had opened, and inside was not rejection, but something she thought she would never find: hope. The humans fire the door closed against the storm, shutting out the screaming wind and swirling snow. Inside, the human moved quickly, carrying the fainted alien woman in his arms. Her skin was ice cold, her body stiff, as if death already claimed her. He placed her gently on a rough wooden bed. Near the fireplace, the fire crackled loudly, its heat filling the room. But her lips were still blue, her hands trembling even in unconsciousness. The man pulled off his thick coat and covered her with it. He grabbed a blanket and tucked it tightly around her. His brow was heavy with worry. He had never seen a creature like her so close before. He had only heard stories aliens were dangerous, strange, untrustworthy. That was what the others in the village believed. But now, lying weak and broken in his home, she did not look dangerous at all. She looked like someone who had nothing left. He sat beside her, watching her chest rise and fall slowly. "Don't die here," he muttered under his breath. His house was small, only one room, built of stone and wood, and though it was humble, it was warmer than the frozen streets outside. He poured hot water into a cup and set it near the fire. Waiting for her to wake, after some time, the alien stirred, her eyelids fluttered, and she slowly opened her glowing eyes. They caught the firelight, making them look like embers. She blinked in confusion, then panic. Her body tensed as she tried to sit up, her voice rough and weak. "Where am one?" The human raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Calm down, you're safe here," he said. His voice was steady, warm, not harsh like the villagers. He moved the cup toward her. "Drink this, it will help." Her trembling hands reached for the cup, but she was too weak to hold it. The man steadied it for her. Lifting it to her lips, she sipped, the hot liquid burning her dry throat but spreading warmth through her chest. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from the heat, but from something deeper. Someone was helping her. For the first time, "You're human," she whispered, staring at him with disbelief. "Why? Why did you let me in?" The others, they shut their doors. Her voice cracked, remembering the faces twisted in fear and hate. Remembering the buckets of water and the cruel words, the man leaned back, staring into the fire. His jaw tightened as if he was thinking. "Carefully, because I couldn't watch you die on my doorstep." He answered simply, "You knocked on the wrong night if you wanted me to ignore you." She lowered her gaze, ashamed. Her fingers clutched the blanket. "I didn't want to." "Come here," she said softly. "My people said humans would kill me if I got close. But the cold? It was worse than fear." Silence hung heavy for a moment. Only the fire crackled. The human studied her carefully, noticing how fragile she looked, her bones sharp under her skin, her face pale with exhaustion. He wondered how long she had been wandering, how many nights she had survived in this storm alone. Finally, he spoke. "What happened to you? Why were you out there, knocking on doors?" Her lips trembled, and for a moment she did not answer. Then, slowly, spilled out like broken glass. "My family cast me out. They said I was useless, a burden. I tried to find shelter, but no one wanted me, I thought. Maybe someone would have pity, but I was wrong." Her voice broke, and she buried her face in her hands. 17 doors, all closed. The human clenched his fists, anger flickering in his chest, not at her, but at the cruelty she had endured. He thought of the villagers, the same ones who smiled at him during the day, now revealed as people who left a woman to freeze in the dark. "You're safe here," he said firmly. His voice carried strength. No one will throw you out again. Not while you're under my roof." Her eyes widened. She looked at him as if he had spoken an impossible thing. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, her eyes filled with tears again, and she whispered, "Why? Why do you care? I am not even of your kind." The man leaned closer, meeting her glowing gaze with his steady brown eyes. "Because no one deserves to die in the snow," he replied. "Not human, not alien, no one." The fire popped, sending sparks into the air, and for the first time in many nights, the alien woman felt warmth, not only on her skin, but in her heart. The trembling of her hands slowed, and she leaned back against the bed, her breathing softer. The human stood, checking the windows. He knew the villagers would talk. Rumors spread fast, and if anyone saw her enter his house, trouble would come. But he did not care, for tonight, saving her mattered more than their whispers. As he returned to the fire, the alien's eyes followed him. She studied his every move, still afraid, still uncertain, but also holding a small spark of trust for the first time since her exile. She allowed herself to believe that maybe not everyone would close the door. Suspicion in the village morning came slowly. The snow outside glowing faintly under the pale light. Inside the cabin, the alien woman was wrapped in blankets near the fire, her breathing steadier now. The human had stayed awake most of the night, adding wood to the fire and watching over her. He did not know why he cared so much, but he knew one thing clearly: she had been left outside. She would have died before dawn. The village was small, and small villages carried big mouths. By sunrise, whispers had already started. Someone had seen a shadow slip into the human's cabin the night before. Others saw strange footprints in the snow, too delicate to belong to a man, too sharp to belong to livestock. The rumor spread fast. He is taken in one of them. The human heard the knock on his door before breakfast. He opened it to find his neighbor, a stout man with narrow eyes. The man's voice was low but sharp. "I saw movement in your yard last night. Who was it?" The human gave no answer, only shrugged. "Nothing you need to worry about," and closed the door. But his neighbor's eyes narrowed even more, suspicion burning. Inside, the alien woman shifted uncomfortably. She sat up, hugging the blanket. Closer, her glowing eyes darted toward the door. "They know, don't they?" she whispered. Her voice was weak but fearful. "If they find me here, they will drag me out. They will kill me in the snow." The human knelt beside her. "Steady and firm. You're safe here. Don't open the door. Don't speak. Let me deal with them." But outside, the whispers grew into louder talk. By noon, two women stood outside the cabin, whispering as they pointed at the windows. A group of men gathered near the frozen well, their voices carrying on the wind. "He has broken the rule. No alien should be given shelter," one said. "It is dangerous for all of us," another agreed. The human knew the danger. He had lived in this village long enough to understand how quickly suspicion turned to violence. He added more wood to the fire, glancing at the alien woman. She looked so fragile, her skin glowing faintly in the warmth. Her hands clutched the blanket like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "Maybe I should leave," she said suddenly. Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I don't want you to suffer because of me. You saved me, and I am grateful. But if I stay, they will hurt you." The human shook his head sharply. "Step outside now, and the cold will take you before the villagers even touch you," he said. His voice carried no doubt. "I will not open the door and let death in. Not for them, not for you." She looked at him, her lips trembling. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Not even her own people had fought to keep her alive. For a moment, she felt something she could not name safety. But safety was fragile. That evening, as the sun fell behind the trees, lanterns flickered outside the cabin. A group of villagers stood together, their faces stern, their breaths misting in the cold air. One man raised his hand and shouted, "Open up! We know what you're hiding." The human stood in the middle of the cabin, staring at the door, his hand tightened around the edge of the table. Behind him, the alien woman froze. Her glowing eyes wide with fear. Her heart raced, her body ready to collapse again. "Stay quiet," the human whispered, his voice low but steady. "No matter what happens, don't make a sound." The pounding on the door grew louder. "You cannot hide her forever," the voice outside shouted, "if you let her stay. You bring danger to all of us. You think she is weak now, but what if she brings others? What if more of them come?" The alien woman buried her face into the blanket, tears forming in her eyes. She had been thrown out before, rejected 17 times, and now, even here, safety seemed to slip away. The human's jaw tightened. He stepped closer to the door, but did not open it. Instead, he shouted back, "If any of you try to enter, you'll regret it. This is my home, and no law says I must open my door to you." His voice echoed through the wood, filled with iron. The villagers muttered, some uneasy, some angry, but no one pushed the door open. At last, the sound of their footsteps faded into the snow, the glow of lanterns shrinking into the night. Inside, silence filled the cabin again. The alien woman slowly lifted her head, her glowing eyes searching the human's face. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you risk yourself for me?" The human looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he spoke quietly, almost to himself because someone had to. Her tears slipped down her cheeks. But this time they were not only of fear. For the first time in her life, she felt something warmer than fire hope in another being. The secret revealed the fire burned low, casting long shadows on the cabin walls. The human sat near the window, his eyes watching the dark outside. He knew the villagers would return. They were not finished. Suspicion did not vanish in one night. It only grew. Behind him, the alien woman stirred restlessly. Her glowing eyes reflected the firelight as she hugged the blanket tighter. She had been silent for hours, but now her voice trembled in the air. "They won't stop, will they?" she asked. The human turned his head, his face calm but firm. "No. They fear what they don't understand." Her hands shook. She pressed her palm against her chest as if holding something hidden beneath her skin. For a long moment she said, "Nothing." Then slowly she whispered, "Do you want to know why they hate me? Why my own people cast me out?" The human's brow furrowed. He leaned forward. "Tell me." She hesitated, her breath uneven, as though the words themselves carried a curse. Then, with trembling hands, she pulled back the edge of her sleeve. On her forearm glowed a faint, Marcan intricate symbol that seemed to shimmer under the firelight. It was not a wound, not a tattoo, but something alive, etched deep into her very flesh. The human stared, his eyes narrowing. "What is that?" Her voice was weak, heavy with shame. "A mark of exile. My people say it is cursed. They believe it brings death, disease, and bad fortune. They said anyone with this sign must be abandoned, must be left to die. I begged them, I cried, but they dragged me to the edge of the village and left me in the snow." Her words shook as tears slipped down her face. "That is why 17 doors were closed. Not only because I was alien to them, but because they saw this. They think I am a curse walking." The human's jaw clenched. He reached out gently, holding her arm so he could study the mark closer. It pulsed faintly, like veins of light running under her skin. To him, it did not look like a curse. It looked like something old, something powerful. "This is not a curse," he said firmly. "This is something else. Do you even know what it means?" Her eyes widened. She shook her head quickly. "No. No one ever explained. They only feared it. They only wanted me gone." The human leaned back, thinking. he had seen old books, fragments of writings from before. Ancient signs carried meaning. Sometimes warnings, sometimes gifts, he could not be sure. But one thing he knew, fear was often built on lies. "They fear you because they don't understand," he said at last. "And you believed them? You believed you were nothing but this? This may be more important than you know." She stared at him, stunned, her lips parted. But no sound came. Never before had anyone spoken of her mark as if it were more than a curse. But before the moment could settle, heavy pounding struck the door again. The human rose, anger flashing across his face. Outside, voices shouted, "We know she is still inside. Show us the cursed one, or we will burn your cabin to the ground." The alien woman gasped, pulling the blanket up to hide the mark. Her whole body shook with fear. "Please, they'll kill us both." "Let me leave. It's better if I go." But the human stood tall, blocking the door, his voice thundered back. "You will not harm her, not while I breathe." The villagers cursed and threatened. But none entered. They feared the human strength, and more than that, they feared the unknown inside. Eventually, their footsteps faded into the night once more. Inside, the alien woman sobbed. "You don't understand. They will never stop. They think I carry death with me." The human crouched beside her, his voice steady. "Then let them think. I don't care what they believe. I see you, not their lies, and I will not throw you to the snow." Her heart thudded painfully. She searched his face for any hint of doubt, but his eyes burned with certainty in that moment. A warmth spread inside her, stronger than the fire. It was something she had never felt, someone choosing her, not abandoning her. The mark on her arm glowed faintly brighter, as if it responded to his words. She gasped, pulling her sleeve down. Quickly, but the human had already seen it. His eyes narrowed with curiosity. "You don't even know what this is," he said slowly. "But maybe fate put you here for a reason. Maybe the 18th door was meant to open." She shivered, her tears falling silently, and for the first time since her exile. She felt that maybe, just maybe, the mark on her arm was not the end of her story, but the beginning. Attack in the night, the storm had quieted, but the silence outside the cabin was heavy. Too heavy, the human sat by the door, his hand resting near the axe he used for chopping wood. His eyes did not close even as the fire dimmed. He knew the villagers would not stop with threats. He knew their fear would soon turn to violence. The alien woman sat near the hearth, her eyes glowing faintly in the low light. She clutched the blanket close and whispered, "They will come back, won't they?" The human nodded, his voice firm. "Yes, but if they do, we face them together." She trembled, her glowing eyes wide. "You don't understand. They will bring fire. They will break through walls. They will kill you just to reach me. I am not worth this." He turned to her sharply, his voice like steel. "You are alive. That makes you worth everything." Before she could answer, a sound outside cut through the night. The crunch of boots in the snow, many of them lantern light, flickered through the cracks of the wooden shutters. Shadows moved across the frozen ground. Voices rose in anger. "Bring her out. End this curse." The alien woman covered her mouth, her body shaking. Tears welled in her eyes as memories of her own people dragging her away returned. "Ah," she whispered. "It's happening again." The human placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and strong. Not this time. A heavy slam struck the door, the wood shuddering. The villagers shouted, "Step aside, human. We warned you. If you protect her, you betray us all." The human grabbed his axe, pulling it free from the wall. His eyes burned with defiance. "You'll have to break me first," he shouted back. Another slam shook the cabin, a crack splitting through the wood. The alien woman cried softly, "Please, don't fight them for me, please." But the door burst open with a deafening crash. Splinters flew across the room, and men with torches stormed inside. Their faces twisted in anger and fear. The firelight flickered wildly as the human raised his axe. The first man lunged, swinging a club. The human blocked it with the axe handle and shoved him back into the others. The cabin was small, but it became a storm of fists. Wood and fire. The alien woman screamed, pressing herself into the corner. The human fought with everything he had. He struck, shoved, blocked. His arms burned with pain. But his resolve was harder than iron. One villager crashed against the table. Another dropped his torch when the axe came too close, but still, more came. A fist slammed into the human's jaw. Blood filled his mouth. Another man struck him from behind with a stick. He stumbled, but did not fall. He raised the axe again. Swinging wide, keeping them back, his voice roared above the chaos. "You will not touch her." The alien woman's eyes glowed brighter, her hands gripping the blanket so tightly it tore. She saw his blood dripping onto the wooden floor. She saw his body straining against overwhelming numbers. Something inside her cracked, a voice inside her screamed, "Not again, not him." She rose from the corner, her body trembling, but her eyes burning with fire. The villagers froze for a moment when they saw her. The cursed mark on her arm pulsed with light, brighter than before. Her voice carried across the room, sharp and desperate. "Stop. Leave him alone." The glowing mark illuminated the cabin. The villagers gasped. Some stumbled back in fear. The curse. The curse. They shouted, but none dared move closer. The human, bloodied and bruised, glanced at her, his breath ragged, his eyes wide. The alien woman stepped closer, her arm lifted, the mark glowing like fire beneath her skin. "You call this a curse?" she cried, her voice breaking. "But he is the only one who saw me as more than a curse. If you kill him, then you prove you are worse than the monsters you fear." The villagers hesitated, torn between fear of her and the sight of the human standing with his axe, still ready to fight. Their torches flickered, their courage faltering. At last, one man spat on the floor and growled. "This isn't over." With that, they retreated. Pulling each other out of the broken door, their footsteps crunched in the snow until only silence remained. The human dropped his axe, his chest heaving. He staggered, blood running from a cut. Above his eye, the alien woman rushed to him, catching his arm. "You're hurt. You're hurt because of me." He gave a weak smile, his teeth red with blood. "I told you, not while I breathe." She broke down, her tears falling on his shoulder. "Why didn't you let me go? Why didn't you save yourself?" His voice was rough but steady. "Because you were worth saving, even if the whole world said otherwise." Her heart ached with something she had never known, gratitude so deep it hurt. The mark on her arm glowed softly, not in anger, not in fear, but in something new. It was as if the light itself understood his words. In that shattered cabin, with blood on the floor and smoke from fallen torches filling the air, she realized the truth. He had chosen her, and she could no longer see herself as a curse. A choice of trust. The cabin smelled of smoke and blood. The wooden door hung broken on its hinges. Letting cold wind creep inside, the human sat against the wall, breathing hard, his face pale, blood dripping slowly from the cut on his forehead. The axe rested beside him, its blade stained. His body trembled from exhaustion, but his eyes were still sharp, still alive. The alien woman knelt beside him, her hands shaking as she tried to press the torn blanket against his wounds. "You'll bleed too much. You fought them all, and now you're broken because of me," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. The human caught her wrist, his grip weak but steady. "Listen," he rasped. "I chose this. I would do it again. Don't think you're a burden. You're not." Her heart ached. The cursed Mark on her arm pulsed faintly, glowing through the torn fabric of her sleeve. She looked at it with hatred and fear. This is why I should leave. As long as I stay, they will never stop. They will come back with more men, more fire. And you will die protecting me. She rose to her feet. Trembling, she moved toward the broken door. The snow outside glowed faintly under the moon. Her tears fell as she whispered, "It's better if I go now, before they return." But before she could take another step, his voice cut through the cold air. "If you walk out now, the storm will kill you. You won't last an hour." She froze. Her fingers dug into the wood of the doorway. Her body screamed to run, but her heart pulled her back. She turned slowly, looking at him. His face was battered, his blood staining the floor. And yet his eyes were fixed only on her, steady, unyielding. "Why?" she asked in a broken voice. "Why risk your life for me? Why stand against your own people? You could have given me to them and saved yourself." The human tried to rise, groaning in pain, but forced himself to his feet. He leaned on the wall, his breath heavy, because no one deserves to be thrown away, because 17 doors closed on you, and I refuse to be the 18th. Her chest tightened. Her tears blurred her vision. She whispered, "But I am marked, my people believed. It cursed, and now yours do too. I will bring ruin." He stepped closer, his hand reaching out. His fingers brushed her sleeve, pulling it back just enough to see the glowing mark. This strange light reflected in his brown eyes. He did not flinch, did not recoil. Instead, he said softly, "This isn't ruin. This is a sign. You carry something there, too blind to see." Her breath caught. For so long she had believed the mark was the reason she was unwanted, unloved. But here was a man-human, of all beings, who saw it as something else. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed into his arms. Her sobs shook her body. "Why didn't you let me die?" she whispered. Her voice was fragile, like glass. He held her, weak as he was. His voice steady in her ear. "Because you're alive, and that is enough reason to fight." She pressed her face into his chest, his heartbeat steady against her cheek. In that moment, she knew she had a choice. She could run, like always, surrender to fear. Or she could trust him, trust the warmth that had kept her alive. Her trembling hand rose, and she pressed it against his wound. The glowing mark on her arm pulsed brighter. A soft warmth spread from her skin into his. His breath caught as the pain eased, the blood slowed, the wound knitting faintly beneath her touch. He looked at her in shock. "What? What did you just do?" She gasped, pulling her arm back. "I don't know. I never tried before. I never believed I could. I thought the mark was only death, but maybe it carries life too." They stared at each other, the fire flickering low between them. For the first time, she saw herself not as cursed, but as something different, something unknown. The human reached for her hand, holding it firmly despite his pain. "Then stay, and let us find out what it means together." Her tears fell again, but this time they were not of fear. They were of hope, fragile and trembling, but real. She nodded slowly, whispering, "I will stay. Not because I have nowhere else, but because you are the only door that opened." The wind howled outside. The night was still heavy with danger. The villagers would come again, stronger, more determined. But inside the broken cabin, 2 lives had bound together, one by choice, the other by trust. And for the first time since the snow took her, the alien woman no longer felt alone. A home at last. The days that followed were not easy. The cabin door had been broken, and the human worked slowly to repair it. Hammering wood with hands still bruised, the alien woman helped as best she could, carrying logs, keeping the fire alive. She was weak, but her determination grew stronger with each passing day. The villagers did not disappear. Their eyes followed the cabin. Whispers spread like smoke. Some said the human was cursed too now. Some said he would die because he had touched her. Others feared the glowing mark and stayed away. Keeping their distance, the village had turned cold against him. But inside the cabin there was warmth. Each night they sat together by the fire. She listened to his stories of childhood, of how he lost his family and learned to live alone. In return, she spoke of the world she had left, of her people who had abandoned her. Her voice cracked when she spoke of it, but he never interrupted, he only listened. And in his silence, she felt heard. The mark on her arm no longer shamed her. She began to uncover it without fear when she placed her glowing hand against the human's injured skin. Small wounds healed. Deep bruises faded faster. At first, he was shocked, but then he smiled and said, "Maybe your curse was never a curse. Maybe it was always a gift." His words lit something inside her. For the first time, she believed them. But peace was fragile. One evening, as the snowstorm howled outside, the villagers gathered again. This time they stood further back, watching, afraid to come near. They carried torches but did not move closer. One of them shouted across the wind, "If you stay with her, you are no longer one of us." The human stepped outside, the cold cutting into his skin. He shouted back, "Then I am no longer one of you." His voice thundered across the snow. The villagers hesitated, then slowly turned away. Their torches faded into the distance, leaving only silence. The alien woman had watched from the doorway, her glowing eyes wide. Her heart raced as she whispered, "You chose me over them." He turned to her, his breath misting in the frozen air. "I didn't lose them. They lost me when they chose fear over kindness." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she smiled through them for the first time. Her tears were not of pain, but of relief. From that night, the cabin was no longer just shelter. It became a home. She cleaned the small room, cooked what little food they had, and laughed softly when he teased her clumsy attempts at human cooking. He repaired the roof, built new walls, and even carved a chair for her near the fire. Every small act stitched their lives together. Thread by thread, one morning she stepped outside as the sun rose. The snow glittered like diamonds. The cold was still sharp, but she did not tremble anymore. She looked at the cabin behind her, smoke curling gently from the chimney, and she whispered to herself, "This is where I belong, inside." The human watched her through the window, his lips curved into a faint smile. He had lived many years alone, his life quiet and hollow. But now, when he looked at her, he saw color in the world again. That evening, she sat across from him by the fire. Her voice was soft but steady. "You saved me," she said, "but more than that. You gave me a place when no one else would. You gave me a reason to keep living." He looked at her, his eyes steady. "And you gave me something I thought I lost a long time ago." She tilted her head. "What's that?" "Family," he whispered. Her heart swelled. She leaned closer, her glowing eyes reflecting the flames. Her hand reached across the table, and he took it in his. For a long moment, neither spoke, because no words were needed. Outside, the village remained silent. The world beyond still carried fear and cruelty. But inside that cabin, an alien woman, once cursed and unwanted, had found what she never dreamed possible: a home. And for the human, once alone in the cold, the 18th knock had given him not just a guest, but someone who turned silence into warmth and loneliness into life. The fire burned brighter, and though the storm still raged outside, neither of them felt the cold again. The mark's truth: the winter stretched on, but inside the cabin, warmth grew stronger each day. The alien woman no longer hid her mark, and the human no longer cared about the whispers of the village, yet both knew the peace would not last. The villagers feared what they did not understand, and fear always led to danger. One evening, As the fire burned low, the alien woman sat quietly, staring at the glowing mark on her arm. Her voice trembled. What if they are right? What if I bring ruin? What if this mark is not a gift, but a warning? The human reached across the table, placing his calloused hand gently over hers. Then we face it together, he said. No curse is stronger than choice. But before she could answer, a sound outside shattered the calm. It was not the whisper of villagers, nor the crack of snow. It was heavier, deeper, like the growl of something alive. The human grabbed his axe, his muscles tense. He pushed the door open slightly and froze. In the distance, at the edge of the frozen forest, a shape moved, huge. Cloaked in shadows, eyes glowed faintly in the dark. The alien woman gasped, her body trembling. It followed me, she whispered. That is what they feared. That is why they cast me out. The human turned sharply. What is it? Her voice shook. A beast of my people. It hunts those with the mark. It is said the mark calls to it. I thought it was only stories, but it has found me. The growl grew louder, echoing through the night. The cabin walls shook as heavy steps pressed against the snow. The human shut the door, his breath misting in the cold air. Then stories are not. We fight. The alien woman shook her head, her eyes wide. No, you cannot fight it. It is too strong. That is why no one wanted me, because to shelter me is to bring the beast to your door. The human's jaw tightened. He looked at her, his voice steady. 17 doors may have closed, but this one will not. Not to a beast, not to anyone. The creature roared outside, shaking the ground. The sound was like thunder. The villagers lit lanterns in the distance, watching from far away. They whispered in fear. The curse has awakened the monster. None dared to help. Inside the cabin, the alien woman trembled, her glowing eyes filled with despair. She pressed her hand against the mark, and suddenly a surge of heat rushed through her body. The mark pulsed brighter, filling the room with light. The human turned to her. Shocked, "What are you doing?" Her voice was barely a whisper. If the mark calls it, then maybe the mark can stop it. She stepped toward the broken door, her hands glowing with faint fire. The human moved to stop her. But she shook her head. You gave me courage when no one else would. Now let me give it back. The beast's shadow loomed larger as it came closer. Its breath was hot, steaming against the frozen air. Its claws dug into the snow like knives. Its growl shook the cabin. The alien woman stepped. Outside, the wind whipping against her face. The villagers gasped in the distance, waiting to see her torn apart. But instead of running, she raised her arm high. The mark glowed so bright it painted the snow in silver light. The beast stopped, its growl fading, its glowing eyes locked onto her. For a moment, the world was silent. Then the creature bowed its massive head low to the ground, its breath heavy, its body still. The alien woman's tears spilled. She whispered, "It does not want to kill me. It was never a curse. It was a call, a bond." The human stepped out slowly, his axe in hand but his eyes wide. "What does it mean?" he asked. Her voice trembled but carried strength. "It means I am not marked for death. I am marked for command. This beast was not hunting me. It was searching for me." The villagers cried out in shock. Some fell to their knees in fear. Others fled. The human, still bleeding and battered, stood beside her, his voice calm but steady. "Then let them see. Let them all see that the one they cast out holds more power than they ever dreamed." The beast lowered itself further, almost as if bowing. The alien woman placed her glowing hand on its head. The light spread through its body, and for the first time, she felt strength instead of shame. She turned to the human, her glowing eyes soft with tears. 17 doors closed, but the 18th gave me more than shelter. It gave me purpose. He smiled faintly, resting his hand on her shoulder. and together. We'll make sure no door closes again. The snowstorm raged. The villagers watched in silence, but in front of the cabin, under the moonlight, a human and an alien woman stood side by side with a beast at their feet, not cursed, not broken, but united. And for the first time, her mark was no longer a burden, but a crown. The humans chose the night after the beast bowed. The village did not sleep. Lanterns burned through the dark as whispers filled every house. The villagers had seen the impossible. The cursed woman they rejected now stood outside with a monster. At her command, fear grew, but so did something else. Curiosity inside the cabin. The alien woman sat near the fire, her glowing mark still faintly pulsing, as if it held new life. Her hands trembled as she traced the light with her fingers. "I don't understand it fully," she whispered, "but the beast is bound to me now. It will follow me wherever I go." The human leaned against the wall, his axe at his side. His body still bore bruises, but his eyes were sharp. "Then it means you're not cursed. You were chosen." Her eyes lifted, shimmering, chosen. Or doomed to carry a weight that others fear. Before he could answer, there was another knock at the broken door. This time it was not angry pounding, but hesitant tapping. The human gripped his axe and opened it slowly. A child stood there. No more than 10 years old, his small face pale with fear. His voice shook. "My sister is sick, please," they say. "They say your alien has power. Can she help her?" The alien woman froze, her glowing eyes wide. Never had a villager asked for her. Never had they wanted her near. For so long she was the outcast, the cursed. Now a desperate child begged at her feet. The human looked at her, his voice low. "It's your choice." Her breath caught, her hands trembled, but she rose slowly. She knelt before the boy, her voice soft. "Take me to her." The villagers watched from their windows as the strange pair walked through the snow, the human carrying a lantern. The alien woman at his side, the massive beast trailing silently behind like a shadow. Fear rippled through the crowd, but no one stopped them. They entered the small home, where the child's sister lay pale and burning with fever. The family looked terrified at the sight of the alien woman. Some even tried to pull the boy back, but the human raised his hand, firm and steady. "You asked for help. Let her do it." The alien woman knelt beside the girl, her glowing mark casting silver. Light across the room, she placed her trembling hand on the child's forehead. The mark pulsed, heat rushing from her arm into the girl. Slowly, the fever broke. The child's breathing steadied. Her eyes opened weakly, but alive gasps filled the room. The family fell to their knees. "It's not a curse," one whispered. "It's a blessing." Words spread like fire. By dawn, villagers whispered of what they had seen. Some still feared, but others began to wonder. If the curse could heal, if the beast could bow, then perhaps everything they believed was wrong. But not all were convinced. A council of elders gathered at the edge of the village. Their voices were sharp. "If she holds power, then she will rule us. If she stays, we are no longer safe." They feared losing control more than they feared monsters. The human stood beside the alien woman as the whispers grew louder. His hand rested on her shoulder, steady and certain. She looked at him with glowing eyes, full of doubt. "Maybe I should leave now, before they turn on us again." He shook his head firmly. "No, you're not walking back into the snow. Not again. If they want to drive you out, they'll have to drive me out too." Her lips trembled. "You would leave your home, your life, for me?" His voice was steady as stone. "I already chose. The moment I opened the 18th door, you're not just a stranger anymore. You're mine to protect." Tears welled in her eyes. She pressed her glowing hand against his chest, feeling the beat of his heart. "And you're mine, human." The only door that stayed open that night. The beast lay outside the cabin like a guardian, its breath steaming in the cold, its glowing eyes keeping watch over the village. Inside, the alien woman and the human sat by the fire. Their bond no longer fragile but solid. The villagers could whisper, the elders could plot, the storms could rage. But for the first time, she believed she had something stronger than fear. She had a human who chose her, a beast who bowed to her, and a home that was built not from wood and stone, but from trust. And though danger still loomed, she knew now that whatever came, they would face it together. Asterisk the elders' judgment. The morning was heavy with silence. Snow covered the rooftops, muffling every sound. But beneath the quiet tension spread like fire through dry wood. The villagers whispered of the child who had been healed. Some called it a miracle, others called it proof of a dangerous power. And the council of elders, old men who had ruled with fear for years, decided it was time to act inside the cabin. The alien woman stirred the fire. Her glowing eyes were, but her hands trembled. She could feel the weight of the village pressing down on her. She whispered to the human, "They will not forgive what I did. They will call it unnatural." The human sharpened his axe with slow, steady strokes. His voice was firm. "They can call it whatever they want. I saw a child live because of you. I saw hope, and no council can take that truth away." Before she could reply, loud horns echoed through the snow. The sound carried across the village, calling every man, woman, and child to the central square. The human and the alien woman exchanged a glance. They both knew what it meant. The council had spoken. They walked together to the square, the beast following silently. Behind them, its heavy steps made the ground tremble. The villagers parted, fear in their eyes. Some bowed their heads, some spat on the ground, but none dared block their path. At the center stood the 5 elders, their faces carved with age and bitterness. The oldest raised his staff and spoke loudly. "This alien is marked with a curse. We saw her summon a beast. We saw her glow with unnatural light. She is dangerous. If she remains here, she will destroy us all." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nodded in fear. Others shook their heads in doubt. A woman's voice cried, "Out, but she healed my daughter. She saved her life." Another shouted back, "And what will she take in return?" Nothing comes without a cost. The human stepped forward, his axe resting on his shoulder. His voice rang out like steel on stone. 17 doors closed on her, and each one chose fear over compassion. But I opened the 18th, and because of that, Kyle is alive today. Tell me, elders, is life now a curse? The crowd stirred, eyes shifting. Some looked ashamed, but the elders' faces hardened. The oldest spat, "You are blind, human. Her mark will bring ruin. The beast she commands will one day turn on us all. The law is clear. She must be banished or destroyed." The alien woman's body shook. Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She whispered to herself, "It never ends. Even with proof, they still see only death." The human turned sharply, anger burning in his chest. "Then your law is wrong. If compassion is against your law, then your law is nothing but cruelty." The beast growled behind him, its deep rumble shaking the ground. The villagers gasped and stepped back. Some dropped their torches, fear flashing in their eyes. The elders raised their staffs, trying to hold control. But the human's voice cut through their power. "You call yourselves wise, but you are cowards. You throw away what you don't understand, and in doing so, you throw away the chance to change. If she leaves, I leave with her. If you call her cursed, then call me cursed too." Gasps filled the crowd. The villagers looked between the elders and the man who had lived among them for years. The boy, whose sister had been healed, stepped forward, his small voice trembling but clear. "She saved my sister. If you call her cursed, then you curse us too." The alien woman's tears spilled freely. She reached for the human's hand, whispering, "You don't have to do this for me." He gripped her hand tightly, his eyes fixed on the elders. "I'm not doing it for you alone. I'm doing it because it's right." For a long moment, silence ruled the square. The elders' faces twisted with rage, but the crowd began to shift. Whispers turned into voices. Voices into shouts. She healed the child. She is not cursed. The human speaks truth. The balance broke. The council, once untouchable, stood shaken before their own people. The oldest elder slammed his staff into the snow, but his voice cracked. "If you side with her, you side against us." The villagers, one by one, began to step back from the elders, choosing silence over obedience. The human's voice rose once more, calm but unyielding. "No door will close on her again, not while I stand." The beast lowered its head beside the alien woman, its glowing eyes burning like embers. The mark on her arm pulsed brighter, as if alive with strength. She looked at the villagers, her voice soft but steady. "I am not your curse. I am not your ruin. I am just someone who knocked on your doors, and for once, someone opened." The crowd lowered their heads, shame washing over many faces. The elders, seeing their grip on power slipping, stepped back, their authority shattered. And in that moment, for the first time, the alien woman no longer felt like a beggar in the snow. She stood tall, her hand in the human's, her beast by her side. No longer cursed, no longer alone, but finally seen.